What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd Up podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, over on the Mets'd Up podcast YouTube channel, you will notice we have a special guest with us, Jett Williams, Mets top prospect. We spoke to Jett, actually, I believe the day that he signed. We met him on the field at Citi Field, got to hang out. There was a rain delay. Ended up being a crazy day. But Jett, out in the Arizona Fall League, thank you for joining us. How are things going? It's been a minute since we spoke.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. It's been going good. Just getting to be able to play again for these last, I guess, couple of weeks has been pretty awesome. Everything's out here is pretty cool, I guess. And just this, I guess, aspect of just being able to come out here and play in great weather, and just basically it's kind of a time to just have fun, really. Nothing, I guess, really matters per se. Like, not really like worried about winning or losing. It's just kind of going out there, have fun, try some new things, see what works and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like the weather in Arizona right now is probably a little bit better than Binghamton in April, right?
Oh yeah,
Not
for
bad.
sure.
But in April, you caught that wrist injury, and that took out a big chunk of your year. What was rehab for that like, especially as a hitter with power like you? And how were you able to just stay focused going through that rehab every day?
Right. So I had surgery, or I guess I'll just start you from the beginning. So I slid into second, feet first, and kind of put my hand on the ground, and I think I jammed it. Didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, maybe it's just like a little jam, whatnot. Kind of played the rest of the game, played 2 weeks, and then I went into a series against New Hampshire. I think it was April 21st. I know it was the day it was like my last game. So it was like the thing that next week going into that series against New Hampshire, started swinging in the cage, and I was doing my top hand drills, and I just could not hold on to the bat. It was like weird. And I couldn't grip, and I was like, and what was funny is the Mets, our training staff was like, hey, you have a grip test today. And I was like, oh Lord, like, let's see if I can get away with this. So I gripped with my left hand, and it was a good number. I was like, all right, I'll see you. And they're like, no, like, that wasn't your right hand. I was like, yeah, it was my right hand. Like, you missed it. And like, all right. And I gripped with my right, and my right was down. And then, so I ended up just like, yeah, my wrist bothered me for little while. I thought it was just a jam. Like, I was telling them, like, it was jammed, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then it just kind of started hurting. And then I had a couple of cortisone. I did 2 cortisone shots. I did one here in Scottsdale, with Dr. Sheridan, which he's the one that did my surgery. And he thought the first cortisone was going to be good. And went to Florida, rehabbed for a couple of weeks, and then I ended up getting another cortisone. Um, and that one didn't work. And I mean, the rehab staff down in Florida and did a great job with kind of everything we did. I think just those cortisone shots, I guess, didn't work. So I flew back to Arizona, had surgery with Dr. Sheridan, and then he figured out so like my TFCC ligament right here was torn, but then the cartilage in there was all messed up. But my ligament was like, it was supposed to be flat, and it was like a C in there. So he's like, hey,
Yeah.
that's why the cortisones weren't. He said you could have got 1,000 cortisone shots and none of them were gonna work. I was like, oh, that's good. At least when surgery was supposed to be like an hour and a half, and it was only like 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes.
Nice.
And he was like, hey, I went in there, saw what was wrong, cleaned it all up, shaved down your bone a little bit, and everything was good to go. And then after that, I went home for a month. I rehabbed at home for a little while, and then went back to Florida. And then they once I got back to Florida, the rehab staff there with Luke and Alex, Tyler, and all them, they did a really good job with just getting me back the quickest. No, it's kind of tough being my top hand, hitting hand. So you kind of have to go through these little steps of, all right, like, here's little continues of, all right, here, does this work or does this not work, or how's it feel? And kind of going from there. But I think they did a really good job to get me back on the field as quickly as possible.
When you miss that much time, what's the hardest thing to adjust to once you get back into real games?
I think just kind of being in that groove of, like, you're playing every day, you're getting in a groove of, all right, my swing feels good, or like maybe my swing feels a little bit off, but I know that I'm playing every day. Like, I think playing every day helps you not only get better in the aspects of your game, like, obviously you practice before you play, and then I think in the game and playing 140 40 games, what a minor league season is. Like, I think when you show up every day and just trying to continue to get better each and every day, like when you start to when you end, like you definitely gotten a lot better. I think that was just like the toughest thing of, I mean, I really didn't hit for, I don't know, maybe 2.5 months really. And then when I did like start hitting, it was like slowly like ramping up and trying to get my wrist back to, hey, like this, I know that I can swing and like get my top hand doing that again. And it was like almost kind of like trying to like tell my mind like, hey, everything's fine. Like, but once you like started swinging and stuff, it was good. But I think the biggest thing was just like definitely the pitching was like you, for me, it was going straight into DoubleA, like with only like a week of rehab games, which is like, I think was great amount of games. It was just that's I think that's just a tough thing of like going into it of like you're not in a groove, you haven't seen pitching in since April of 21st, so it's like it's almost kind of like you're restarting spring training over, um,
Yeah.
and just going back into spring training, trying to get your feet wet a little bit and trying to get back into that groove. And then I think, as I said, once I got to AAA, it was kind of started getting in that groove again, and then that was only 6 days, so.
Yeah, dude, you did 1 week in an A ball, and then you went back at the AA for about 2 weeks, and then you finished the year in AAA. What was that jump from AA to AAA like? 'Cause I feel like at the beginning of the year, you probably were like, I want to get to AAA by the end of the year. Then you missed 4 months, and you get to AAA by the end of the year. So what was that jump between AA and AAA, and how did it feel to get to that level?
I think the biggest jump was knowing that you kind of have to elevate your game a little bit, just knowing that everybody's better. I think everybody's like, hey, the pitching is a lot better. Like they're basically, you can't miss your pitch that you're supposed to drive. And I think I saw that like the first 2 games, and it was like everybody here is just raking, everybody's just hitting. And but I think the biggest jump was like knowing. I think for me it was like knowing that they're going to be in the zone, like they're gonna. I think from the first game to the end of the game, or from the first game to like the last game, it was like first game was like, all right, here's how they're gonna throw. All right, I took that first game into the second game, and I was like, all right, now they're going to try to make you chase. Once you know it chase, it's like, all right, let's see if I can throw a first pitch strike and he's not going to swing. Or then it's like once you start kind of making those little adjustments, honest, like instead of game by game, it's more of like at bat. And I think I was just making the adjustments a lot quicker, and just I think I was just locked in those 6 games, knowing that, hey, like I'm trying to do everything I can to either at least start here next year, or if it was just, hey, get more at bats, it's fine. I know that I didn't play much in AA, so it's not like I expect them to put me in AAA to start the year next year. It's just more of trying to do everything I can to kind of put pressure on them and just honestly go out there. And I knew it was the last 6 games, so it was just be happy to be on the field and be back playing again.
We've seen the organization's been playing you at shortstop and playing you in center field. What has been the biggest focus of development for your game inside the organization so far?
Honestly, I mean, I think just knowing that I got drafted as shortstop, obviously we have Lindor, great player. Most likely never going to play shortstop for the Mets unless something like miraculously happens. But I mean, he deserves it. Like, he should have been, hopefully he's MVP or whatever. But I mean, like, he's a great player, and knowing that, hey, like I'm going to develop as a shortstop, and it's like knowing that, hey, like I'm most likely not going to play there, but it's like, I guess the best value for me is like, hey, we're going to stick you at shortstop. We're going to have you develop until, hey, either something happens, or, hey, we're going to move you to second. All right, now get your reps at second, or because I've played a little bit of second here and there. And then center field is, I mean, I tell everybody, like, hey, like, what's the difference out there? It's just like, me, it's just, I don't know. I just got to go out there and run down balls and try to throw people out. That's about it. Don't miss your cutoff is really the biggest thing, and don't miss the ball out there.
Did you ever play any outfield, like high school, coming up in the prep circuits before you got to the professionals?
Yeah, so I actually, I mean, growing up as a kid, you play every position, and which I guess doesn't, I mean, it counts, but it doesn't, just because it's like, all right, you're trying to figure out a position. I mean, heck, I caught, once I started playing baseball all the way until I was like 14, I was a catcher I would rotate
yeah.
every.
Yeah, it
And
seems like you're the best player in the field, so yeah. Yeah.
but no, so I think, I mean, at my freshman year in high school, I played second base, and then my sophomore year, it was like short and second, a little bit like rotate. My junior year, told our coach, I was like, hey, like, I think I'll go play center this year because I think we don't have that good enough of an outfield. And I was like, I'll go play out there because the person I was going to play out there was really good, but it was like, I think he was a lot better at the infield. I was like, hey, you can put him at second. I'll go out to the outfield and I'll just try to help the team win out there because it was like we know that we were lacking out there a little bit. And I was like, not really an outfielder, I guess. It was just more of like, I know I can play because it's just natural, like kind of go out there, which I never practiced it during the season. I would always take my reps at short and in the games, and I would just go out there and catch balls. And I still basically do that to this day. I still have never like practiced fly balls. I mean, I guess there's probably once I guess say I do make it to the big leagues or something as a center fielder, I'm sure that there's going to be some practice into it and obviously hopefully get a lot better out there. But I think just as of right now, just going out there and catching the ball, trying to hit your cutoff and just don't miss the ball.
You guys are out in the fall league right now, of course, playing a bunch of games. You and Drew Gilbert, two of the Mets' top prospects out there, both kind of similar seasons where just injuries did not allow you to play as much as you could. Explain your relationship with Drew and what it's been like to be out there playing with him.
Right. So, I mean, we go way back to he was actually my host at Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Way.
So when I went on my official visit, he was my host. And then he's still mad at me because I never committed to Tennessee. But I do kind of thinking back on it, I tell him, hey, like, I don't know. He was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You weren't going to go to school anyway. I was like, yeah, I guess. But no, I think just once he got traded over here, I was kind of happy for him. And kind of then I got to DoubleA and played with him then. And then, I think we're kind of like the similar like person. I think we're just pretty chill, and I think he definitely has a little bit more, I guess,
he's chill.
Craziness.
He's a little nuts.
More craziness on the field than I am. I'm probably the more calm one on the field. He's more of like the crazy one. So I think we kind of level each other out. It's like I try to calm him down. He tries to make me not like so calm. But for the most part, no, it's been good. We're actually roommates here. We've been roommates pretty much the whole year. I think just we've both had a long year. We've both kind of know what it's like to basically not play a whole year, and that's kind of what we talk about. I think having each other and is really good for both of us, honestly. I think that we just pick each other's brains about everything, and knowing what we were in rehab for, I don't know, 4 months together, and then now we're in the fall league together. It's just, I think it's really cool to have that chemistry together, and like it's basically pretty much one of my best friends, and I think it's cool to be able to play with somebody like that, and then knowing that, hey, like we both can get to the big leagues, and like hopefully we play our whole professional career with the Mets and we're together, and I think it'll be awesome to win a couple World Series together. And it's just like, hey, that's so cool we started from here and now we're there. So
I'm kind of with Drew and being mad at you because you committed to two schools. You committed to A&M and you committed to Mississippi State. So to not pick Tennessee, that is kind of a shot at him. But when you came up to DoubleA last year, it was towards the end of that season. That DoubleA team had gotten a big influx of talent from the trade deadline with Drew, and then Acuna came there, and then you had the pitching staff going crazy. Dom Hamill was a beast.
right.
What was it like coming up to that squad for the playoff run, kind of coming together that locker room and also being able to look around and be like, this is something, these are a bunch of guys I could be with for a very long time, doing this kind of thing forever?
That was awesome. I think just knowing that was my goal to end the year in DoubleA and getting there and having that good of a season, being my first year and kind of not knowing what to really expect. I think the biggest thing is walking in the locker room, and I was only 19 and everybody's, I don't know, 25. And it was like, obviously you play with each other in spring training and stuff, but it's like you kind of, when you're in spring training, you have, hey, here's more of like the DoubleA, AAA guys over here, and like they're practicing together, and it's like the high, low A guys, like first year guys or whatever. And I think just, I mean, I played a little bit with them that last spring training and like kind of getting to know everybody, but I think just kind of going in there, it was like once I was in the locker room, everybody was like, hey, like congrats and everything. And I was like, I just felt like really welcomed. And I think that actually helped me a lot to play the way I should play instead of kind of being nervous of like, hey, I don't know anybody, or like I guess everybody's older and stuff, and I think just they did a really good job of just welcoming me, even though like, hey, like we're trying to make the playoffs, or we did make the playoffs, and we're trying to go win this thing. And I think just kind of, I mean, like I said, Drew was there, and kind of him and Acuna, like even though Acuna sometimes it doesn't speak the best English, but I think it's kind of funny because I think those are like the best connections when people like don't speak the best like English or Spanish. It's like you kind of find a way to either joke with them or like, and I think that's just how you get close. Like I think Drew will tell you to this day, like it's like me, him, and Acuna all like make jokes with each other, and like Acuna might not understand us or he might not, but like it's just so funny because it's we all interact and it's like we're all smiling and laughing. But no, I think it was just awesome being able to be a part of that team and kind of knowing like, hey, this could be like what the future of the Mets are. And like I think we have a lot of talent in our organization, and I think that we can continue to just grow with, especially the new guys coming with Stearns and Andy Green and all that. Like I think that we're not, I guess, not necessarily like in a rebuilding stage, but I think we have such a lot of like young prospects and stuff, and like such a good organization that we don't really like. We're not like up there, and like I guess people are like, oh, like watch out for the Mets' future or something. It's just like kind of just whatever. But I think
Yeah, it's
knowing
their
that, like,
fault.
right, yeah, I think just knowing that we can kind of knowing the team that we have and like like the guys in the organization, it's like, hey, we're gonna be pretty good for a long time.
You mentioned how there was quite an age difference going up to DoubleA the first time. You also got to go to Major League Spring Training this past season. What was that like working out with the Major League squad, hanging around Francisco Lindor and those guys?
Right. I think that was awesome. Knowing like I think it was kind of weird at first. It's like, hey, like you watch these people grow up and like you watch them play. And now you're in a locker room with them, but I think just the way they welcomed us, and I think that was really special of like kind of going out to like who they are. I think like Lindor, I mean, I was around him kind of 24/7 with the infield, and it's like he was giving me tips of here and there, and like obviously you can have players like, oh, he's a minor leaguer and he's up here. It's like, we're not going to talk to him. Or like you can have like Lindor. He was always talking to me. He's always making me feel welcomed. And I mean, heck, me and him played basketball together in the locker room 24/7. We'd play knockout and whatnot. But I think just those guys like Austin Pete, like all the big name guys out there just kind of make you feel welcome. And it was like, it almost kind of was like a weight lifted off your shoulders. Like, all right, now I can just kind of go out there and play. Like, we're all human, and like, but you always think like, I like, oh, are they gonna like me, or like, are they actually gonna talk to me or whatnot? But they're all really cool, and they all make you feel really welcomed. And I think that's really special if you can walk into a locker room, especially like, hey, if I make my big league debut, it's like I'm walking in the locker room and everybody's like making me feel welcomed and like supportive.
Who's got the better jump shot, you or Lindor?
I would say at first me, and then I think when I was beating Lindor so much that he probably stayed after a little bit to work on that. But yeah, he definitely had some improvements, and then he started beating me, and then he'd let me know that he was beating me.
I feel like you and him could be like a nasty backcourt, like a pickup game. Just a lot of movement, a lot
Yeah,
of hands, a lot of defense. But
yeah.
we were doing research before this interview, and it feels like you are baseball family. That's where it stops and
Mhm.
ends. You mentioned basketball. Did you ever even play any other sports growing up, high school, anything?
I played, I mean, middle school, and I played basketball and football, but for the most part, it was right when I got into high school. I played just strictly baseball, just knowing that like I'm most likely it's probably going to be what I'm going to do. Hopefully, like at the time, it was like this is what I want to do. I want to make it to the big leagues. Like I probably have no shot to make it to the NFL or the NBA, so it's like why play those? Like obviously, like yeah,
Probably.
go play them for fun, but it's like at the end of the day, like if your ultimate goal is to make it to the big leagues, like let's just go all in and just see what happens.
You from Texas. Texas has been loaded with baseball talent, especially at the shortstop position. We saw Bobby Witt Jr. has become one of the best players in Major League Baseball. Jordan Lawler, a top prospect. Do you have any relationship with those guys? Did you get to compete against them at any point?
Yeah, so me and Jordan are actually in the same agency. So I've kind of grown up playing against him and against him. I went to area code with him, and he's probably one of the nicest guys ever. Really liked him, and I mean, I think he was hurt a little bit this year too, and last year. So it's and he made it to the big leagues last year, and we were kind of like on the same track of, hey, he after his first full season, he made it to DoubleA, and then he started in DoubleA his second year and made it to the big league. So it's like, like, hey, like we were on the same track, and then he got hurt, and I got hurt. It's like kind of picking his brain, but no, he's ultimately like, I really like him, and probably one of the most humble guys ever out there. But just overall a great guy. And Bobby, I've never had really a relationship with Bobby. I've never talked to him before. But no, I think just the way he plays too, I look up to him too, and kind of all aspects of his game, and knowing that he's also a really humble guy, and knowing people that know him, and one of my good friends and was in his agency too. So it's like he knows all about them, and just kind of seeing the way he works and plays, like obviously like that's somebody you'd like to really resemble your game after.
Have you had any other like big league players or any other kind of mentors along the way, like coming up as you were high school and minor leagues now, anything?
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, I had my summer coach, Sean Lowe. He played in the big leagues for 8 years with the White Sox and Cardinals. He was a pitcher. But just kind of having him as I grew up, just kind of knowing like, hey, like this is what, I guess, I mean, we were young, so it's kind of like you really don't know like what, I mean, obviously people say they can tell, but it's like, let's see, like, how can I tell, or like, let's work as hard as we can to make it like that. And I think he helps me a lot with a lot of things, with just even outside of baseball too. Like, I think just having him like kind of lead the way too. And then once I got into high school, it was kind of my hitting coach. I've been hitting with him since I was 8 years old. His name is Aldre Rincones, and
Wow.
kind of growing up, he's from Venezuela, and he actually is best friends with Robinson Trinos, that played for the Mets too. So I've worked out with Trinos since I was in 8th grade. Him, Odor, Elvis, and Mazzara, just all those guys since I've been kind of going into high school, and then all of high school, and then now I would say kind of all my hitting coach and Robinson are kind of like the mentors of leading me the way of, hey, this is how it needs to be done and whatnot.
That's how cool was that as like a middle school, high school kid to be around those Texas Rangers, because they were making some runs during that time. And I mean,
Right.
Obviously Odor was in the news for punching out Jose Bautista. Like those were some of the biggest names in baseball at the time.
Right. No, I think it was awesome. I mean, just picking their brain, like seeing what they do, like working out with them, like hitting with them, like what is their cage routine like, or what do they do to, I mean, like they've done it for a while. And I think just a lot of it is just knowing like how humble they are with all the stuff that they do. It's like they could easily be jerks or whatnot, and like, hey, we don't want you to work out. But it's like, like I said again, like being able to work out with those guys and pick their brain, I think it was huge for me, especially growing up and going into high school, and like especially my last 2 years of high school. Like, hey, there could be a chance of you getting drafted, and like this is what we need to do. And like they helped me a lot with everything, and kind of just the way they go about their business.
I do like that you said there's a chance to get drafted. It ended up being a first round pick. I think it was a little more than a chance.
One of the top players drafted in the whole thing. When we saw you last, it was the day you signed your contract 2022 with the Mets. Again, Mark just said first round pick. Got a nice little signing bonus. Do you do anything fun with that signing bonus when you got it? Anything, any gifts for the family, any big ticket purchases, anything fun?
I'd say the one thing that I've always wanted was a diamond necklace. So I just got a diamond necklace.
Nice.
And then, I mean, I just leased a car. My financial advisor said, hey, lease a car. No need to buy it. Like, you're not going to be driving that
Smart
much.
man.
So
Yeah.
lease the car. But no, that's pretty much the only thing. Probably big gifts once I make it to the big leagues for everybody.
Nice.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're excited to see you make it there one day. Jett, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Before we let you go here, just tell anybody where they can follow you, whatever you want to plug, go for it.
Yeah, just Instagram, Twitter, whatever. I mean, it don't really matter. I'm not that big of a social media guy, but
I like it. Humble, focused on ball. Jett, thank
Ball.
you so much, man. Appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the Arizona Fall League, and hopefully we'll talk to you again during the 2025 season.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you all for having me.